The Town Star competition happening on July 8th, 2025 will feature the return of the Apple Cider meta. The craft requirements for Apple Cider are 5 apple, 1 water drum, 1 sugar, 2 yeast, and 1 glass bottle. It is crafted in the brewery with the craft time of 4 minutes and 20 seconds and stored in the storehouse. For this competition, Apple Cider will give 136,000 stars for each one sold. The trade time for this competition is 60 seconds with a 1 gasoline cost per trade. The starting layout provided for this competition is a plains biome with a mountain on the east side, a river on the west side, and a desert biome edge on the north side, which is useful for the sand mines. There is an oil seep provided in this biome closer to the mountain on the east side. The cash boosts for this competition are apple from 700 to 7,000, glass bottle from 12,800 to 36,000, sugar from 2,300 to 23,000, and yeast from 4,220 to 42,200. The rewards for this competition are the standard Gala rewards for reaching the top 1,200 placements in the leaderboard by the time the competition ends. Rewards are usually distributed directly to your account within 5 days. This is the Apple Cider design that I've created for this upcoming competition. I'm going to break it down as usual and talk about some similarities to the Apple Cider design that I showcased in the video a year ago. That wasn't actually my design. That was a design created by Team Storm NFTs. He was the winner of the first community build showcase event that I created, and his design did at least 76 apple cider per hour. It could be improved to like 80 per hour. So this one's very similar in that sense. It's doing 77 per hour, but it can be improved to 81 per hour, I believe. And I'm going to tell you what you need to do, but not how to do it a little later in the video. And I'm sure there's some similarities because of all the amount of apple trees needed, and obviously you would want to have it close to the river. But the main similarity to his design was this setup right here, which I think is the most ideal to have, where you have 2 ponds like this and then 2 water pumps, and this supplies all the passive water drums to all of the breweries and the bakeries for the yeast and apple cider production. So I think that's like one of the most useful things to utilize, and that makes the most sense. But other than that, everything I pretty much put my own spin on it, made a couple of tweaks to get this to work. So let's take another look at the production monitor. Once again, 77 apple cider per hour. No NFTs are required in order to reach that production rate. I did get the apples to 408 per hour. Sugar is overproducing, same as lumber, and same as flour and yeast by a little bit. The amount of wood being produced here is actually very close to the amount that you need, but of course it's still going to overproduce lumber slowly, and eventually your lumber yard will get full with 20 lumber, which is okay because you don't need to store any wood in here, just lumber. So let me go ahead and explain the crafting process, starting with flour and sugar production. I have 6 logger houses. They have their own neighborhood in the corner over here. There are 15 tree farms, 6 farm tractors, 3 on the south, 3 on the north, very symmetrical, 5 wheat fields, 2 up north, 3 down south, 2 sugarcane fields right here, 2 silos, 1 on the north, 1 on the south, and 33 windmills, all on a red craft timer. On this one, I will point out the ones making sugar, which are these 7. All the other 26 windmills are crafting flour. Now there are also 2 storehouses, one closer to the north and one closer to the south. For glass bottle production, I have 2 lumber mills making the lumber that gets stored in the 1 lumber yard. There are also 5 water facilities closer to where their crops are, since these don't cast any shade. And of course they have the 3 passive water that they need to craft the water drums, and they take it all the way to the warehouses, of which I have 2 of, 1 on the north, 1 on the south. And there are 8 iron mines. They all have the 3 passive energy that they need from all of the nearby power plants, of which there are a total of 5 power plants. And starting from the one closest to the north, it goes chromium, limestone, chromium, limestone, chromium, limestone, chromium, limestone. So it's 4 making chromium, 4 making limestone. There is 1 forklift in charge of picking up the silica from the 3 sand mines. They all have the 2 passive energy that they need, and they're next to the desert biome edge so that they're able to craft silica with a green craft timer. That silica gets taken to this warehouse and picked up and used by the 3 glass factories, which are crafting glass bottles. And for apple cider production, production, I mentioned earlier the 2 water pumps. That's very important for the passive water drums. There are 4 bakeries making yeast. There are a total of 42 apple trees, of course making apples very slowly. They all have the 6 passive water that they need to craft the apple. Make sure that your apple trees also have 6 passive water, because it's a very common mistake that some people make where they have 1 or 2 apple trees that only have 5 passive water and they don't realize it. They don't realize that those apple trees aren't really doing anything unless you're also running a well on the side. But then I have 8 breweries making the apple cider close to the silo, since they do have to make 5 trips to the silo, but also close to the storehouse so they can get the rest of their items. Now I mentioned earlier there's a way to improve this to make 81 apple cider per hour, just based on the apple rates and the yeast rates and the sugar rate. It probably would be closer to 81.8 apple cider per hour, limited by the amount of apples here. And in order to accomplish that, you would need to have 1 more brewery, since it seems like all of these breweries can only cap out at 77 apple cider per hour. So I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do that. There are various different things you could do. You could remove one of the roads that you don't think is useful. You could remove one of the windmills. See, you could put a brewery here, put the windmill somewhere else. So I'll let you figure out how to do that exactly, but I'm telling you the solution to get at 81 per hour would just be to add another brewery somewhere, preferably with the passive water drum. And for the gasoline setup, it's a little different than the standard setup. So I have 3 power plants providing the 6 passive energy required for this refinery that's making the gasoline. This refinery all the way over here is making the petroleum, and in between them I have the fuel storage. Of course, this refinery gets its passive energy from one of these power plants. And then I have the oil seep right next to the fuel storage, providing the passive crude oil for the refinery making petroleum, and it provides the passive crude oil for most of the power plants, so you can craft energy very easily for the rest of your build. And for the trade setup, I'm only using 1 trade depot on the northeast corner over here. You could run 2 of them if you wanted to, but 1 of them would be just fine. You just run 1 of them, then you have 2 empty spots over here next to the logger neighborhood, as I call it. So you could just put builder houses there, or if you do have any NFTs, you could put a town hall, since it helps with the wood production a little bit more. But for this production rate, once again, you won't have any issues getting all the wood that you need. Here is what the auto trade looks like. I have most of the items at an auto trade quantity of 10, with the exception of the crops, which are the wheat, sugarcane, and apple. I have those at 12. That way I can make sure that there's always at least 2 of them to be picked up by the workers. With this setup, there's no need to auto sell wood, lumber, or petroleum, though if you are overproducing wood, you probably do want to put that on auto sell just in case, so it won't jam up your lumber yard, because you absolutely do need lumber in there, or else you can't make the minerals for the glass bottles. Here's what the build looks like on the visualizer. Total cost is about 13.5 million. Wages are 18,770 per minute. There are quite a lot of paved roads on this, by the way, 73 paved roads as you can see. Some of them probably aren't necessary, but I decided to use them on here anyways to help the workers get to the crops and the tree farms a little bit quicker. And most of these spots had shade on them anyways, so this is just so you won't have to rely on red timer or yellow timer crops. And as always, you can find the file for the visualizer on my Discord server, and an invite link is in the description. As for the cash strategy, this design really isn't that expensive, and they've been generous with the cash boost. This one's not like insane like the previous one was with the 100 times cash boost, but the 10 times cash boost on apple and sugar is still very good. So you could just run a bunch of apple trees. Of course, you want to make sure they all have the passive water that they need, and 400 apples per hour here is enough for about 2.8 mil cash per hour. You could also do the 2 sugarcane fields, or more than that really, and build out all the windmills and craft a bunch of sugar. That'll get you even more cash, and eventually you can actually start to work on the rest of your build, whether it's this one or your own design. Get to the point where you're making flour and get the bakeries done to make yeast, and then you can sell the yeast for some cash. By then you should pretty much quickly get all the cash that you need to finish out the rest of the build and actually make the apple cider, and then you'll be okay. So really it's just that, sell apples and sugar for a while, or just continue to work up till you get to your final design, and you should get all the cash by by the same amount of time it takes to actually finish building everything. So at 77 apple cider per hour, this is good enough for top 1200, and once again the improvement is there to get this to at least 81 per hour. Probably more improvements above that, but it's going to be pretty difficult trying to fit in extra apple trees here. But that's going to be it for this build showcase. Hopefully this design helps you create or improve your current design. If you found this helpful and informative, please leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. If you want to help support the channel, you can find links in the description on how to do so, and as always, I appreciate your support and thank you for watching.